Hello, team. I thought we should cover some of our basic tactics for the way that we line up. And this is important for the kids, but it's also important for all the parents so that you know what you're looking at and can reinforce good habits at home. So the way that we line up is with 4 defenders in the back and then 3 across the midfield and a striker up top. And in soccer, when you describe a lineup, you do so with numbers, and you always start from the back. There's always one goalie, so we don't mention the goalie. This is a 4-3-1. A 4-3-1, right? 4 defenders, 3 midfielders, 1 striker. All right, let's start with basic roles in this system. Our outside defenders here, there's usually a clear person for them to mark coming from the other side. And we want to mark goal side, ball side, because they're isolated out here. They're defending on their own. But we do encourage them to try to get the jump on this player to intercept this ball when that's possible, especially if this is someone who does not come back to the passes that are hit into them. So as this person, we might say a ball is traveling in here, we try to get the jump here. And then if this ball ends up coming past, either it goes over the head or this person dribbles by, that's where the sweeper gets involved and the sweeper comes over to support. Because we are playing with a sweeper and a stopper / holding midfielder. As we move further up the field, let's bring our players back in here. Let's say we've got the ball down in the other attacking half of the field. The further we are from our own goal, the more we want to encourage these defenders to cheat up to try to get ahead of their marks to intercept that ball. So then when it comes out, they can beat this player to the ball and keep the other team pinned in. The reason we do that is if they get beat over the top, there's a lot of space back here for us to sprint back and recover. And again, that's what the sweeper is really here for. If this ball comes in over the top, whether Morgan's playing there, Brixton's playing there, or someone else, it's always a very fast player that plays in this sweeper spot because they're going to be able to get that ball over the top and again support our 2 defenders. So if it goes over the top or they get beat somehow, that's when our sweeper gets involved. All right, let's leave these up here for a second. So those are our basics with the outside defenders. Now, I want to talk about the role of that sweeper just a little bit more. So the sweeper, going by that name, they sweep, right? They go side to side to cover this player, and if we get beat up the middle, they're in a natural position to cover that. This central defender or holding midfielder, and it's kind of a hybrid position because we're playing 9 on the field instead of 11 like in normal soccer. This person should stay central. We do not want this person getting sucked out to the sides to go help this defender or sucked out here to help this defender. They always stay central. So when the sweeper, if somebody's coming in here, they beat this player, the sweeper comes out, the center defender drops back basically into the sweeper's role. And then this one would provide balance. But again, this center defender always stays central. I can't emphasize that one enough. The goal is in the middle of the field. Someone has to be responsible for the middle defensive, for the middle of our defense. That is always the center defender, so they've got to stay central. If they get beat straight down the middle, come in here, the sweeper is going to come challenge. They're coming in here to support. So if that sweeper gets beat, they're still there. And those are the basics on defense. Now, one thing I do want to stress is while this is fairly simple and this is fairly simple, it's the player that moves up into this space that is more complicated for this center defender. There's a lot going on for this center defender. We usually do not want this person behind their striker. We want them in front of the striker. We don't need 2 people essentially playing the sweeper role. That's why this person comes in front. And we can do that because we have a 2 against 1. In this 9v9 setup there, it is extremely rare to see two attackers running through the middle. And so that allows us to come with this. And so sometimes that sweeper steps up to mark it so that this center defender can hold this space in here. Because what we're really trying to do is deny passes into the middle, into this striker. The striker is often a very strong player from the opposing side, and so we want to deny them the ball as much as possible. And we also want to control the middle of the field. So by having this person pushed up along with our center midfielder, we want to have these two players active in the middle of the pitch as much as possible in order to win the battle in the middle. And while the goals are scored on both ends, the game is often won right here in the middle, because that's where all the chances are created from. And conversely, where all the chances are stopped, again, intercepting these balls that try to come into the striker, that center defender is in a great position to snuff out chances before they even become a goal-scoring opportunity. Okay, let's talk basics with our midfield line here. So we've got 3 across the middle. None of these players are forwards, I would add. So we don't need them trying to come up here and act as forwards, because what it does is it leaves these huge gaps on the wings that the opposition can run into and start coming at our defense. We don't want that. Ideally, we would stay compact in this shape as we move up the field. And then primary responsibilities for these wingers: get a hold of the ball, try not to take too many touches, hit passes into this player, passes into this player, passes into space that this striker can run in on. If we get in trouble under pressure, we should have an outlet back here or an outlet back here where we can then redistribute the ball and head the other way. Now, one critical piece that changes from game to game is that I will often give instructions for one player on either side. And this is all dependent on what the opposition is doing and what matchup we're looking at. I might encourage one of these wingers to stay up. So we might have it might be a situation where the majority of us are staying tucked in, but we encourage this one winger to cheat up a bit. Or it could be on this side, just again, depending on the matchup. It could also be if there's a weak player on one side or the other. I might tell the left winger, or conversely the right winger, to try to take this player on more often. So I would say our default option for these two midfielders is take a touch to control the ball and then knock it on to another player. Again, into their feet or into a space behind the defenders that this striker can get to. However, if you see someone attacking their defender a lot to try to get by this person and then hit a cross to the middle, that is because they've been instructed to do so. Again, if you see one of these wingers staying up high, that's because they've been instructed to do so. And it's going to change from game to game. So there is no default situation. I will pull a player off if they're not doing what they're instructed to do. So if they're not being pulled off, you can assume that they are correctly following instructions. And I think this is really important, because if the coaches are on this side and the parents are over here and they're yelling at this player to get back, that player is going to be very confused. Or if they're yelling at this player to get forward all the time when we're really saying, hey, we need you to stay tucked in and really mind your defensive responsibilities, again, that player is going to be confused. And that's one more reason we really want our parents, and this goes for any club team, to cheer on the players, but to stick to cheering and leave the information and the tactics to the coaches on the other sideline, because we can always go back and forth on the proper tactics, but the worst possible tactic is indecision. And that's what we end up with if players are being given contradictory instructions. Okay, 2 left, center midfielder and the striker. The center midfielder is a player that covers a lot of ground. They're often called the box-to-box player, which means they're basically responsible for everything from this penalty box down to this penalty box, this whole zone here. And it does get tricky because in the middle third of the field, this player might come out to help one side or the other. Again, the center defender stays central, but this center midfielder should move from side to side to help a bit. And occasionally, if this person is coming in, and my favorite cross, this cross is good, but my favorite cross is always coming down to the byline and crossing the ball back away from the goalkeeper. There are a lot of goals. That is the most dangerous pass in soccer. That goes from the professional level down to young kids. Always has been, probably always will be. If you can beat someone and get to this byline and cross the ball back, those are your best opportunities. But let's take that back a second. Back to the central midfielder. When they get in here, and this striker is probably pushed up, this is a great opportunity when that ball comes up. That's when the central midfielder should be getting into the box and taking shots there. And then occasionally that central midfielder is going to come all the way back with all of our defenders and might get involved in the box here to try to give us extra numbers to defend when we're in an emergency situation. Lastly, the striker, and I think we've covered a lot of this already, but the main role of this striker is to, and for whatever reason, a lot of these teams play a really high line with their defenders. And a high line is where their last defender sits at. And when they play a high line, what they are inviting is a ball over their heads into this space. We've been working, this is a side note, we've been working a lot on chipping the ball, and we've been working a lot on playing the ball out of the air. And for two reasons. One, I see a lot of teams that give us this space in here, so they might play it on the ground, but usually the most effective pass is going to be a little chip over the top. The other reason we've been working on high balls is that team that beat us 2-0 played a brand of kickball where they were trying to hit it long every single time, and we struggled with taking the ball out of the air. Most of that is down to the fact that we like to play it on the ground and control the ball with small passes. So a lot of our practices we're used to the ball being on the ground, and we haven't been as used to the ball being in the air or facing opposition that can hit the ball high and long all the time. Kids are getting a lot better at it. I think we will be in a much better position to take it to that team the next time we play them because we're in the last 2 weeks we've become much more comfortable with the high ball. Back to the striker though. These balls over the top, we want that striker running on to that ball. I think we've seen a lot of that from our various strikers, and we understand that pretty well. One thing we might want to continue to improve is from this player to, again, hit the ball into space where that striker can get to it, or hit that ball over the top where that striker can get to it, or for a player that can hit the really long ball, something that can be very dangerous is, as they all suck over to this side, a long flighted ball to the opposite corner for that winger to run onto. Extremely, extremely dangerous ball, especially for our wingers who can hit the ball far. So that long pass can be great. Okay, last piece for our striker, almost done. This video is way longer than I thought it would be. Something that we really noticed last night with LAFC, and it's something that we're trying to slowly teach to the various players playing striker, is that we want to push up as high as we can to keep these players honest and to be ready for that ball over the top. But when we get possession here, when we connect a couple of passes in the middle of the field, what's really useful is to have this striker just float back off their defender. Again, what we're trying to do is get them so their two center defenders end up playing the same space. We float back in front of them so they can no longer deny the pass, the opposite of what we're trying to do here. Because if they float in there and we get this pass into this person, now this person can get forward, this person can get forward, that central midfielder can possibly run into this space. Either way, we've got runners and we're moving forward, and this player now can pick out passes and put them into very dangerous positions. And the first 2 goals, especially from LAFC, I'll probably put those highlights on the WhatsApp chain as well. Those first 2 goals, you can really see the effectiveness when this forward drops back, collects the ball, and hits this on to on-rushing quick wingers. So that's everything I've got for today. There's the basics, coming in at just under 15 minutes. I thought this was going to be a 3-minute video. Simple things tend to get really complex in this simple game. So there we go. There we have it. Good luck to everybody on Saturday. I know you're going to do great, and I will see everyone next week.